Today's episode will show you that it is possible to step fully into your pride and build stronger and healthier relationships.
Hey, this is Stef, and welcome to the Together Moving Forward podcast.
A podcast helping 2S LGBTQI+ people embrace self-love and self-respect so you can celebrate yourself with pride. By the end of this episode, you'll walk away with how to set healthy boundaries that protect your identity without losing yourself in family dynamics, why acceptance is a process and how to navigate mistakes without sacrificing your self-respect or pride, how embracing your identity can actually strengthen relationships when approached with honesty and boundaries. Today's conversation is about protecting your identity, stepping fully into your pride, and building stronger and healthier relationships. Hello again, I'm Stef Vachon, and I'm a human being. Welcome back to the Together Moving Forward podcast. Embrace your 2S LGBTQI+ identity with pride through self-love. No matter where you stand in the 2S LGBTQI+ spectrum, we are all connected. And if you ever struggle to fully love and respect yourself, you're not alone, and this podcast is here to help you. As someone who has navigated my own journey of self-acceptance as a queer, I know the power of hearing voices that reflect our experiences. In this podcast, you'll hear real stories and conversations that leave you with practical tools, fresh perspectives, and the confidence to embrace who you are with pride. To start, I need to say that I'm not a psychologist, a specialist, or someone with a college degree. I'm just a regular guy here to share with all of you and support each other. I will share my journey, and we will all share journeys together. We'll learn from each other how to move forward. Today, I'm so grateful to welcome Joe and Rya, the father and daughter duo behind the TranDescendant podcast, a show dedicated to helping families navigate gender identity, acceptance, and staying connected through life's most challenging moments. In this episode, we're talking about LGBTQ+ identity, pride, and what it really takes to build self-respect and strong relationships, especially when it comes to setting healthy boundaries within family dynamics. Joe and Rya, thank you so much for being here with us today, and welcome to the Together Moving Forward podcast.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, we're honored to be here.
I'm really happy you're here. Your podcast, TranDescendant, is built around family, acceptance, and identity. Can you take us back to the moment your journey began and how it transformed your relationship as a father and daughter?
Well, I'll start with that in the fact that Rya transitioned when she was 40 or 41. Rya?
41. I was 40 years old when I was wrestling with, do I need to transition? And took me about a year to sort it out. Now I was 41 years old. That was just over 10 years ago now.
And about 5-6 years ago, while we were on vacation, I got the idea that we should start a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I called Rya and I said, this would be something I think would be a great idea. And she immediately took to the idea. And we started by, once I came back from vacation, we started with the idea that we would do these practice podcasts, which we did for about 9 months and never published anything. And at one point we said, we're going to start on September 1st. And we targeted that, we hit it, and we've been weekly ever since. We're now in our 4th year and we're just hitting 10,000 downloads.
Wow.
And we really thought to ourselves, what do we have to give to the world if we're going to be doing a podcast that can make the world a better place?
Yeah.
Dad has a little more time now in his retirement. And so we wanted to put something together that we had that we could give to the rest of the world. And one of the things that we have always had is a very strong relationship with one another. Prior to my transition, we worked together. I was going to take over Dad's company. And then when we were working together, I loved it. And as soon as he was backing out of the company, then I discovered it was really not the right fit for me. It was not what I wanted to be doing. And so I ended up, we sold that company and I went a different way. But then once I transitioned, my biggest advocate was my dad. I
Wow.
don't know that I would have made it through my transition. I remember at one point I thought, all of my options here are bad for going forward. If I continue to live my life as a man, it's miserable. And if I transition, it's going to destroy my family, it's going to destroy my marriage. I was planning to move into ministry with a conservative church. It was going to destroy my career and everything that I had built my life on to that point. And I remember sitting in my dad's office one morning when I had just gone through a time where I didn't want to go on.
Mm.
And he looked me in the eye and he said, "You need to do whatever it takes so that you are still here for your children." And
Which, by the way, she has 7 children.
so yes, so as we go through that, it was so moving to have somebody that was so close, that was my advocate right there,
Oh yeah.
helping me to make the right decision. And so those are hard memories as we go through, but because my dad was there for me the whole time, and because he's always been a voice of positivity, we thought as we got together to do a podcast, we have a unique relationship with ourselves, and that is something that we would like to give to others. So we were talking about how did we work through our own issues, and how did dad process my transition? How was his presence in my life important? How did other family members respond? And a variety of different things. Those topics go on and on and on, and they never exhaust themselves.
Yeah.
And when Rya first came out to me, I had no idea. I didn't suspect it at all. I just saw Rya as Rya. And when she said that was what was in her mind and what she was considering, I did not react. But in my mind, I didn't react physically or I didn't react with speech or anything else. I just thought in my mind, either I accept her or I lose her. And I wasn't going to lose her.
Mm.
So that's where I started. Now, uh, I say I was on the other side, but in reality, I can't say I was really on the other side. I had a lot of jokes and things like that that I could use. Too bad I don't use those anymore. But I I began to try to understand and accept, and I not only accepted but became affirming,
Yeah.
totally affirming. And now I am an advocate. I'm so proud of what she was able to do. I am so proud of it that when I meet people, I often try to work in very quickly that, oh, we do this podcast. And somehow I'm able to share how proud I am of my daughter now.
Well, yes, I'm really proud of Rya for doing all the work, but I have to say, Joe, that I'm so proud of you. From what you're saying and how you are, what you're doing right now, congratulations, because I'm really proud of you too.
Well, thank you.
Wow, that was really moving. I'm already like, that was really nice. Great. Okay. We'll go with question 2. Oh, you almost made me cry right now.
One,
Okay.
if I may add,
Was
one
it that bad?
It was great. No, it was great. It was
um,
so touching.
Thank you.
one thing I really appreciate is how when my dad tells my story,
Mm.
even before I was transitioned, he now refers to me even then as she, and he refers to that person by my current name, Rya.
Mhm.
And I really appreciate that. Um, and depending on how you edit this, you may have caught that he at
Yeah,
one point was referring to me as he by accident and then
I
switched.
will. I will. Don't worry. I
Okay,
already. It was already in my head that I
good,
knew
good.
I was gonna have to.
And that comes up very, very rarely, but usually when it comes up is when we're remembering
Of course.
something from before because we're thinking how it happened.
That's right.
And that's exactly
Of
what
course.
I appreciate right now, how he corrects himself, even then, even in the midst of a memory. And I, from time to time, will do that myself. It's pretty rare in this day and age, but because now I'm so comfortable with who I am. But I remember there was one time when my sister was here. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and we were out and I was saying something about myself, and because of the context that we were in with our family, and it reminded me of growing up, and I was feeling a little uncomfortable in that situation anyway, and I referred to myself as he in that moment, and it was really devastating after I said it. So all of us can make those mistakes in that moment, especially when things are triggering from before.
Well, what you just said is really interesting. I could almost keep that. Would you mind, or do you want me
No, that would
to
be
not?
okay. Yeah, that would be
Because
fine.
I think it's interesting. Of course, you didn't do this purposely, but it's you were referring to before the transition. But I think that would be interesting also
Sounds good.
to keep
Sounds
it.
good. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
What does authentic self love look like when you're navigating identity within a family relationship?
Well, I think one thing that was a real struggle for me in particular was my religious background. So to find self love in the midst of a faith that told me that it's wrong to be who I am was very difficult. I had to come to a breaking point in my faith first, and I came to that breaking point actually in respect to others. It wasn't about myself, but it was a friend of mine, a lesbian, was telling me that she was getting married. And I came to a point in my faith where I said, I'm really happy for her, but yet my faith tells me that this is not God's best for her. But I don't believe that. That
Mhm.
seems wrong to me that that would not be God's best for her because I've seen how this relationship has helped her and supported her and how good this has been for her. And so I had to come to the point where I said, I don't know how to put the verses together or what I believe or how this all works. But what I do know is that her marriage is going to be good for her. And I think that that's a good place to start. And so that was the breaking point for me. And then beginning to deal with myself and my own gender issues and my own faith. And I think that that has been exceptionally difficult for me. And so I have a tremendous amount of compassion for conservative Christians that are coming to this with a heart of, I just want to do what lines up with my values. And I don't know how to be accepting with my values the way that they are because it's taken me a decade to reconcile with that for myself. Well, it took me probably 3 to 5 years to come to my own reconciliation,
Mhm.
but it's been a decade now, and I understand how difficult that is.
Going back to the concept of the family, we have a motto that we started with saying that we're dedicated to keeping families together
Mhm.
because we know that so many people who come out have problems with their family and they are separated from their families. And that is really unfortunate. And it can be really critical, so critical that a large percentage of people who come out who are rejected by one member of the family consider suicide,
Yeah.
and 11% actually do it. That's a very high number. And so our mission is to tell people how we did it. How are we keeping our family together? And what are we doing in that regard? But as we began to do the podcast, as the podcast grew, we realized that from the feedback we got, we now say we're saving lives one podcast at a time. And that's the mission.
I don't know what the current statistics are right now, but when I first transitioned, they said that 42% of transgender individuals had attempted suicide. And I unfortunately count myself among that 42%.
Mhm.
I did not try real hard, but when I was at my lowest point and I felt like there's no way through this, I didn't want to go on.
Mhm.
And I was as well adjusted as anyone that I know.
Of course.
And if I went through that, we recognize just how difficult these gender and sexuality issues are for other people. We wanted to help take that forward so that another parent doesn't have to be the person that's the parent that has lost their child because they didn't know to be supportive.
Yeah.
And because of that, and what she's saying, we have so many issues we deal with that are roadblocks or breaking points for a lot of people. One of our most popular subjects is dealing with religion and LGBTQ plus issues. That is not only important to the people who are going through it, but also to the families. I
Mhm.
would say our most popular podcasts are the ones where we're talking about religion. Our second most popular podcasts are the ones that are dealing with the people who are trying to be supportive or who are not accepting.
Mhm.
And that really makes a big difference in us trying to reach out and do all the things that we can do to keep those families together.
How amazing the work you're doing. Like, congratulations. We need that today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And
Great.
it's nice too because I have gone through I think I completed about 75% of my seminary degree and then that's when I transitioned. But so I did all of the work to know how to go in and read the Greek of the New Testament and the Hebrew of the Old Testament and read the original languages and understand the scholarship. And so to be able to now use that in a way that is positive and helping people has been really, I think, a good thing as well.
And we are both now much more interested in the liberal churches that are totally affirming.
Mhm.
In fact, we had on one of our podcasts, we had a Catholic priest on there who told quite a story about it.
About coming out as gay.
Yes, and he's still a Catholic priest, and that makes it really interesting. We see so many churches. We do see that they're moving in that direction. The number of churches that are becoming affirming are continuing to grow. It's becoming to be acceptable, and when we run across ideas or comments that people make and quoting the Bible and saying one thing that says this is all wrong, we address those issues. We
Mhm.
talk about those issues and we see it from another perspective. Now, that isn't to say that we're always right and they're always wrong, or they're always right and we're always wrong. We can each have our own interpretations, but we
Yeah.
do think we're right.
Well, and one thing that I will say as well, when I pull out the scholarship, I'm not advancing any of my own ideas at this point, but I know the scholarship well enough to say, here's what scholars are saying about things. And so the way that I originally approached faith and some of these passages, and I mean, I spent a lot of time wrestling, trying to figure out how do my faith and my sexuality and my gender identity, how do these go together? So I have a lot of compassion for somebody that is dealing with those trying to figure out how do I put this together? So that parent that's saying, I want to keep my faith, but I also want to keep my child.
Mhm.
I have been where they are. I understand how that works. And we are not the type of people that are saying, you better change or else. What we're saying is, we understand why you're struggling the way that you are, but we've got some answers because we've gone through it as well. And I wish that I had had myself as a guide, now back then to help
Yeah.
me work through. That would have really saved me a lot of agony and heartbreak through that time.
But Raya, you are a guide for a lot of other people, and for that, you could really be thankful.
And this is, I can relate so much This is exactly why I'm doing this podcast, because I wished I would have had something like that. But of course, it did not exist. But I wish I would have had something like that when I was growing up. With everything I went through, I would have felt so much more, surrounded by people like me, because I felt so alone. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that gives you another, mission, even more why you're doing what you're doing, which is fabulous. What is the biggest mistake families make when a loved one comes out, and what would you tell them instead?
I like to use the analogy of a relationship as a bank account, that as long as you are making more deposits into that bank account than you're withdrawing, that relationship will stay strong. But as soon as you try to withdraw more than you have put into that bank account, that's when you begin bouncing checks.
That's so
Eh,
good and easy to understand.
And I think if you have invested in the relationship can withstand you getting lots of things wrong. What it can't withstand is you not making positive contributions to the relationship. And
Mhm.
so if there is not a foundation of love and of trust to begin with, then when you get things wrong, like somebody's pronouns when they're coming out, or you say the wrong thing as somebody comes out as gay or lesbian or bisexual, or any of those mistakes that we can make, those can be devastating if you don't have that foundation of the relationship to begin with.
Mhm.
I think particularly for a transgender person, though, it is especially important if you can accept what they're saying right away. Do your best to get their pronouns right. And when I say do your best, I mean it's a little bit like learning anything else that we have to learn. You may have to go and practice.
Yeah.
You may have to practice in front of a mirror talking about your child using the pronouns that they have asked you to use. And especially if they maybe asked you to use they, them pronouns, and you're thinking, I don't know how to use they, them. The funny thing is, we all know how to use they, them pronouns. Somebody cuts you off in traffic and you don't know who it is, and you say, they just cut me off. Right? We understand exactly what we mean. You don't think that there's
That's
multiple
so
drivers
true.
in that car. You know there's one person, you just don't know their gender.
Mhm.
Well, many non-binary people are saying, look, he, him does not work for me. She, her does not work for me. Can you please use they, them for me? And yet many people say, oh, I don't know. I don't understand how this works. We do it all the time. So it may just take some practice using their name. I heard one person say at one point, they said, I don't like using they, them for a singular. And so if I don't know somebody's pronouns, I just call them he or I call them she. And I had to say, you call who that? You call them that? No, you just called them singular person. You just called them. So it's not hard when somebody says I'm non-binary and I use they, them pronouns to switch it over, but it takes some work. And
Yeah.
so maybe you practice in the mirror and you tell a story about your child and you use their pronouns. That matters a lot. When I first transitioned, it took mom and dad a very long time to get she, her pronouns for me consistently.
Mhm.
Once they got it, it meant all the world to me. And I had to ask, can you please practice? Can you please get it right? And some of those initial conversations, they thought, as most people would think, as I would have thought if somebody had transitioned around me, well, I'm trying so hard. This is difficult for me. And I
Mhm.
had to come back and say, I understand that you're trying really hard. But what I need you to understand is when you get it wrong, how much that hurts. Because I can tell you how much it hurts. Look
Mhm.
at how much I've given up for this. Okay, if it didn't hurt, then I wouldn't have had to lose my marriage. If it didn't hurt, I wouldn't have had to lose my family. I wouldn't have had to transition. I wouldn't have had to do all these things. If you want to know how much it hurts when you call me he, look at how much I've given up so that I'm not being called he anymore.
Mhm.
And your little slip up, I understand you meant it by accident. It was not on purpose, but understand how much that affects me. And you can think of it like this: if somebody kicks you in the shin and they say, Oh, I'm sorry. You can understand. I understand you didn't mean to hurt me. I hope you understand that you did kick me by accident, but that hurt. And many parents will say, well, I'm trying so hard and don't you understand? And I think, well, imagine if somebody had just kicked you in the shin and that person said to you, well, I'm trying so hard and don't you understand? Sometimes I just accidentally kick you in the shin. Well, no, what we would want from somebody at that point is to say, oh, I'm sorry that was an accident. I didn't mean to do it and I'm going to try better next time.
Mhm.
That's all we want. We don't want a big thing about I'm trying and it's this and it's that. Just a simple I'm sorry. And we move on. And I appreciate that mom and dad have really done that for me.
I will tell you, when Rya first came out, I wanted to be there. I wanted to be at the point where I was totally affirming, but I wasn't there. I started out thinking I want to be there, but I had a long way to go. I had so much to learn, and a lot of things I didn't understand. That was one of them. The pronouns was one of them, but there were so many things. And I'd start out by negotiating with her. I'd say, well, can't you just do that at home? And a variety of other things. Now I've continued to learn and learn and learn, so that when I run across people who have just had a child that is coming out, that I can see where they are. Am I totally affirming without anything? No, I've still got more to learn. And this podcast helps me dramatically, because I learn, not necessarily with every podcast, but I continue to learn, and I'll probably continue to learn to the end of the podcast.
Yeah, I learn all the time during my podcast too. It's
Yes.
fabulous. Yeah. How did this journey change not only your relationship with each other, but also how you see the LGBTQ plus community and identity today?
Well, I can tell you, we had a great relationship when Rya and I worked together before Rya came out. All my life, we had a great relationship. I even, when Rya was, I think, maybe 5 years old, I wrote a song. I write music of my own, and I wrote a song called Rya. My best friend is Rya, and we made a big deal out of that. And Rya could sing it, and the rest of our family can sing it, and it. That's how I felt about it.
And it was at that time, the name that I chose for myself is very close to my dead name. And so the song that he had my old name, but it was close enough to my current name, Rya, that the
Yeah.
song still works. And I appreciate that. I grew up knowing that my dad had a song about me.
Yeah.
And then when I had kids, then I had songs about all of my kids as
Yes.
well. And that was really nice. So again, I think because we had those investments in our relationship, that really helped. I think as far as how our relationship changed, it didn't really that much, although we did have to learn how to interact as father and daughter rather than as father and son. And
Mhm.
that was a little different, but not as much as I think either one of us thought it was going to be.
Right.
But how this changed our relationship with the LGBTQ plus community, I don't think dad could even say LGBTQ plus when we started this podcast. He would get all the letters jumbled up and he would say all kinds of things. And we, I think, through this have really developed an understanding and a love for people in our community and the kinds of difficulties that we struggle with. And
Mhm.
it's really been helpful, I think, to have dad as a part of this, because dad is the person that everybody that is outside of the LGBTQ community can relate to and say, I can see
Mhm.
myself in his shoes. He's making all the same mistakes that I would make. And he's
Exactly.
asking all the same questions that I would ask.
Mm.
And I think that has been really good for us and for both of us in helping to understand one another and then the people around us.
And I will say that because of this podcast, we are even closer now than we've ever been before. And We had a wonderful relationship before. It's much stronger now.
Oh, I believe that totally. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can just see you, both of you right now. And I kept thinking, it warms my heart so much just to see you, both of you, talking about this. And we see how close you guys are. And yeah, it really warms my heart. Thank you. You're making my day.
Well, thank you for the compliment.
Wow, seriously, that's so good. Oh, I'm so happy I'm talking with you today. Okay. If someone listening right now feels rejected, misunderstood, or afraid to be their authentic self, what would you want them to hear today?
Mm. Well, first, let me just tell you, you are not alone. What you're going through is what many of us have gone through, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And you might not be able to see it right now, but it is there. I think what we have focused on is a lot more helping the people that need to be supporting, that need to come alongside you. And one of the things that you can do is we have been a safe place for the people that don't understand issues. And you can say, hey, mom, dad, or to your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, a son or a daughter, or somebody that's close to you that is struggling to accept you. And especially the people that are wanting to be accepting, like dad was, but are messing up, doing the wrong things. I would like to say, use us as a resource and say, hey, I know this podcast, it's TranDescendant. Here's a few episodes that I've seen. Would you give a listen to this one and see if this can help you to understand why things are more difficult for us right now, but only if you feel comfortable. You may be in a place right now where you're in a relationship where you don't even have the comfortability with your loved one to be able to request something from them. Then I would say make sure that you have community around you. Make sure that you have people that are supporting you. Find your own found family
Hmm.
because we support one another. We can lift one another up. We can keep one another strong. I have a close friend that they are non binary. And once they came out to their parents did not understand. And they came to the point where they said, I feel like I have no choice but to cut off my relationship with my mom and dad. And that breaks my heart. But also, I've been supportive of my friend. I've always said, I will always be on the side of the relationship. And if there's ever a way to repair the relationship, I would always say, let's bend over backwards to try to do that.
Hmm.
But more important is your safety. And if you cannot live a healthy life, if you're in a toxic relationship where the person that you're with, no matter what you do, no matter how you try to
Hmm.
help them understand and to be supportive, if you can't make that work, make sure that you have people around you that are supporting you, that are lifting you up, that are keeping you strong.
And I would say those people who are on the other side understand that they're on the other side and they say, I can never accept something like this. Well, if you remember in the beginning of this, I said, when Rya came out, my first thought was either you accept it or you lose them. There's nothing in between. And you can't
Hmm.
say, I don't accept this, but no, you have
Hmm.
to get to the point where, yes, there are roadblocks. There are roadblocks for everything in your life. So maybe your roadblock is your faith, and that's okay. When you begin to study something like your faith and to look at something else, you realize often the things that are roadblocks are things that are created by men, not things that are created by God. The roadblocks that are created by men say, this is my interpretation. There's
Hmm.
another interpretation. The roadblocks that are created by men say, you know what, us, we our friends and all the guys I hang out with here, they all think this is really wrong. That roadblock is, it's not your responsibility to change those people. It's your responsibility to change yourself, to work at really understanding. And it is all about taking the time to look at the other side, to understand, to learn how to grow the relationship, not continue to tear it apart and break it apart.
And what Dad recognized about me, which I appreciate because not everybody understands this right away, when he tells that story about either I accept this or I lose them, he recognized that I had already gone through those pieces
Yeah.
of trying to cut it out of my life, trying to get rid of it, trying to make this go away.
Mm.
He knew that if we were having that conversation at this point, that there was not going to be any way that I could get rid of this piece of me and who I am any more than I could get rid of Dad telling dumb dad jokes. And just as me accepting his jokes, and we all laugh about it. We roll our eyes when he tells some joke, and our podcast is full of him telling jokes. And now I tell my share of jokes as well. My acceptance of him as a person is dependent on me accepting that's who he is. He recognized in that moment when I was coming out, if I feel the need to come out and share this is who I am, that he was not going to be able to change me any longer. He knew that the acceptance had to come because there were no other options. There was no other, let's just try this. Well, he said he was going to try to negotiate and let's make this work. But he discovered very early on, there was no halfway for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
The halfway was going to be, I don't want to keep living this way. And he understood that he needed to accept who I am, not because I was looking for a reason to reject him, but because I couldn't turn this off. And if
Yeah.
he couldn't accept me for who I am, then I couldn't continue to be in relationship. That wouldn't have been a possibility. So
Mm.
that's what has made things continue to go on. And I'm sure we would have found some way if he wouldn't have been accepting, some way to have some semblance of a relationship, but it would not have been the close relationship that we have right now.
Mm.
And we have often talked about when we get to the end of our lives, we are not going to be asking ourselves, how much did I stand up for the principles that I thought were supposed to be important? No, we're going to be asking, how much did I sacrifice for my relationships that are important to me? How loving of a person was I? How much did I exemplify the relationships that my faith has taught me to exemplify of love and joy and peace and patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control? Those are the things that are important. And the amount that we give ourselves to those things, our relationships are going to blossom and our whole lives are going to be what they're truly meant to be. And that's where acceptance starts from. It's not antithetical to being a person of faith. It grows out of being a person of faith.
Mm.
And I think that my dad's acceptance of me really came out of his deep commitment to actually be that person that's loving and not be somebody that needs to know better than everybody else.
Mhm. So Raya and Joe, thank you so much. That was great having you. It warms my heart to see you together close like that and helping the community with your podcast. So I invite everybody to go in the bio. Your podcast is gonna be there and all the information about you guys. So it was lovely having you. And I wish I could give you a big hug right now to both of you. It would be really nice. But thank you so much for the work you're doing. And it was great having you
We
again.
can do a
Thank you so
virtual
much.
hug here.
Yeah.
Let's try. It would be great. But thank you.
Thank you. And you can find us at TranDescendant.com or search TranDescendant wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay. Well,
All right. Well,
thanks
thank you
again.
thank you for your
Thank
time
you
and
so
thank you for
much.
having us on.
Okay, and talk to you later.
Sounds good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
As we wrap up today's episode, remember this: setting boundaries isn't about pushing people away, it's about protecting who you are. Acceptance is not a one time moment, it's a journey for you and for the people around you. And when you choose to fully embrace your identity with honesty and pride, you don't just change your life, you give your relationships the opportunity to grow stronger, deeper, and more authentic. I also have something else to share with you today. This conversation doesn't stop here. I actually had the honor of being a guest on Joe and Rya's podcast, TranDescendant. And that episode is being released today as well. In that conversation, I opened up about my personal journey, my struggles, my healing, and what it means for me to build a loving relationship, including my experience as a parent. But more than anything, we talked about love, growth, and hope. So today, you get two conversations, two perspectives, but one powerful message. You are perfect exactly as you are. If you're looking for hope, if you want to feel less alone, and just hear a real and meaningful conversation, I truly invite you to go listen to my episode on their podcast. You can find TranDescendant on all podcast platforms or head to the link in the description to listen now. I'm always looking for inspiring guests for the podcast, and I would love to have you or someone you know share your journey with pride. The world needs your story. It has the power to change lives, and your voice matters. Reach out and send me an email today. Also, I'm now booking keynote speaking engagements. My talk is From Survival to Self-Love, How I Finally Learned to Embrace My LGBTQ Identity with Pride, and how you can too. Details at togethermovingforwardpodcast.com under speaking. It is already time to say au revoir just for now. Join me every Monday for brand new episodes of the Together Moving Forward podcast and learn how to embrace your true LGBTQIA+ identity with pride through self-love. Wherever you're from in the world, we are all connected. Remember, solidarity beats hate. The more we unite, the stronger we become. Because at the end of the day, we are all equally human and we all deserve the same rights. Before we close with our weekly positive thought, I want to tell you what this one personally means to me with today's episode. I am a source of light for myself and others. For me, this connects so deeply to what we talked about today. Being a source of light starts with choosing yourself, choosing to honor your identity, to set boundaries that protect your self-respect, and to stand in your truth even when it's hard. But it doesn't stop there. Just like we saw in this conversation, that light can also guide others, your family, your loved ones, helping them understand, grow, and learn how to love you better. Your light is not just for you. It creates space for acceptance, for healing, and for stronger, more meaningful connections. Now is the time to put your hand on your heart and repeat after me. Yes, you and me together. This week, positive thoughts. I am a source of light for myself and others. Yep, I am a source of light for myself and others. From shame, guilt, silence, and rejection, to pride, freedom, healing, and love, together moving forward. Thank you so much for being here with me today and for sharing this journey of growth and love. I truly appreciate you. See you next week. Ciao. Do you know anyone in the LGBTQ+ community who feels disconnected from their true self, wishing they could embrace their identity with confidence and pride? Share this episode now and help them step into self-love and self-respect so they can truly celebrate who they are with pride, feel empowered, and make a real difference in our community.